few expectations for this session. Websites 101. What's not going to happen here today is you are not going to walk out of here knowing how to build a website. So if you had the expectation that you were going to be a code genius after this, I'm sorry, that is not so. That is not my function. What I think I want to do, and what I am going to do, is talk about, everyone here have a website for your church or organization? Okay, good. So I don't have to start with the admonishment of why that's bad. So good. I'm glad that that's true. However, what I am going to do today is talk about, in detail, some detail, about the checklist of things that should be included in all basic websites. And you would be shocked to learn how often this is not true. And I have some examples, both good and bad, of the things that I am going to talk about. I get asked on a daily basis. People often ask me. I get calls, literally, daily, from parishes, organizations, diocesan communicators. Can you help me remember what it is I need to do because I'm rebuilding a website or we've never had one to begin with? Can you give me your just kind of checklist, your top 10 things that we would be incredibly stupid if we forgot to do? I'm like, sure, I can absolutely do that. So I'm going to run down this list for you first, and then we'll look at each one in some detail. Okay, sound good?
Yeah. Duh.
Yes, I heard that word, duh. Believe it or not, a lot of what I'm going to say to you today is file it under duh, obviously. However, in an example I can show you, this is not always the case. Yeah, you want to put the name of your church on the page. It might be a good idea, you would think. Your name, it's even on, right here. Identify who you are, and there are reasons why. Where are you located? Shouldn't be a mystery, a secret, something that you have to pass a test to find out. Where are you? Sometimes we don't even know where the churches are, honestly. All I know sometimes, and I'm sure in this Diocese of San Diego that's true too, all I know sometimes on my listing is that I have a P.O. box. Because mail isn't delivered to a church building always, necessarily. Especially in places like upstate New York, or South Dakota, or in Province 9. Mail isn't delivered to a church building, it's delivered to an office somewhere else, a parish office in town, the church is out on the road and the office is somewhere else, or a post office box. The post office box is insufficient for the contact information part of your website. Where are you? Someone's looking to join you. They can't join your P.O. box. You need some sort of branding, I think. What is your identity? What does it look like to be Christ Church in Coronado? What does it look like? Words of introduction or mission or vision, however you want to describe it. A lot of what I'm going to talk about today has a lot to do with people who are church shopping. They've moved to a neighborhood or an area and they want to reestablish a connection with the parish because they used to live somewhere else and now they live here. Or they're unchurched and they're seeking a place. They've always lived in your neighborhood and now maybe they want to join you. What is your place about? What are your values? I mean, there's 100 ways to describe it. Everyone is kind of the same. We're welcoming, we're this, we're that. But you should say it, and it should be there. How do I get in touch with you? Do you have an email address? Do you have a phone number? It's got to be there. Somehow. Please. It's got to be there. And I'm going fast with this list because I want to go through the examples. names of clergy or leadership. Not every parish has clergy all the time, but something indicating who your leaders are. I think it's important. I think it's very important to do that, for reasons why we'll go into in a moment. When are you gathering? Might be important to people who want to know about you. What time? What days? On Sunday? You know, how many times on Sunday, and in what flavor are you worshiping? Are you worshiping formally or are you worshiping informally? Do you have kids services? Whatever it is. Are you, gathering in the garden because it's Sunday? What are you doing, and how are you doing it? If you're using social media, it's a good idea to indicate that you are. Now, just remember, these are bullets. We'll get into the details. Programs of outreach, or your ministry areas. Again, like your mission statement and your address and phone number, talk about what it is that makes you important, impressive, unique, special. Talk about that. Include that in your website. And maybe the hardest one of all, and the most difficult hurdle to overcome, is to make your website work here. Here. Not here, because here is easy. But here is where people are living now, in a big way. And we'll talk about how big, at least in my experience, and why that's important. So these are the 10 things that people often ask me. They don't ask me about these things specifically, I tell them, but they say, what is it that I can't forget to do? We're redoing our website, and I run through this list, and they go, oh, right. The name of the church. This is the problem with this resolution on this machine, and I'm really sorry about that. This is really hating the way that looks. Forgive. In Chester, PA, and I'm using a lot of examples from Pennsylvania because this deck was originally created for a similar workshop in Pennsylvania. And on that day, there were many people that I called out as examples in the room, so it was funny, or not. A lot of people were like, oh my God, that's my church. Why is he showing a picture of my church's website? In Chester, PA, unfortunately you can't see this, and I'm really sorry about it. Their whole page doesn't have their name on it. They
Just
don't.
a picture of the church?
Yeah. It's got some links on the side. I hate the way this looks. Hang on a second. Can you just bear with me one moment? Let me see if this works better. Yeah, better. I'll use it this way. So they had a heading, they got some links, they got some stuff on the side, they got a picture. It looks like a nice pile of rocks out there on whatever road it is. Probably the oldest building in town. And it's even got a caption, but they don't put the name of the church on the page.
And the name of the clergyman.
Yeah, okay. It's like, why bother? If you don't, it's a page. It's searched by Google and it doesn't have a name. Put the name of the church on the page. I mean, it seems like an obvious thing to me. Where are you? In Downingtown, PA, they were smart enough to make sure that their Google information in Google Maps was correct. And in their Google Maps page, they decided they were going to put their hours, just like restaurants do. They say, we're open from this and that, and we don't serve lunch on Tuesday. They have said when they are available, and they're closed on Friday apparently, they have their contact information and a Google Map. They were also smart enough to embed the Google Map little code on a right or left rail of their website. So they didn't have to do any coding or programming on the website per se, they just let Google do it for them. Why not? I mean, that's fine. I think that's very smart. So having their information on their web page is smart. Having it in Google Maps is even smarter. More people look at Google Maps than are going to look at their website. Probably. So having your physical location, and I can't stress this enough, If you can't be found, you can't be found. Seriously. Branding and logos. You know, you have to kind of employ someone to go and create something, and most of us have done this probably. You all have letterhead and business cards for your staff, maybe, that has some sort of brilliant logo for your churches. I'm guessing, probably that's true. Yeah, yes? Okay. A couple of things to think about, however. Some of these are pretty good. I don't like this one. Kind of like the cross of St. George went like military here. I don't know, but that's what they chose, that's fine. I mean, I'm not criticizing. I like Rittenhouse Square's kind of Trinity thing. That's kind of nice. Kind of a dove and well, stuff going on there. And that's fine, it's all personal and it's all subjective and it's should reflect the kind of nature of who you are, some formal, some informal. On all of your websites, have you noticed, or even websites that aren't yours, where this branding is usually? Who can say? Think about your own website. Where is this piece located? Top left, usually, right? If it's successfully developed, top left, because newspaper designers and graphic designers all throughout history have always said people's eyes move from top left to bottom right. So the first thing you see is top left. Your brain works that way. I don't know why, it just does. Top left is important. That's where your logo goes. That's where our logo and our brand for the Episcopal Church.org is on the top left. Have you ever noticed, or have you even noticed, what happens if you run your mouse over the branding on the top left? Anybody?
Makes you go home.
Uh-huh. It's usually, if developed correctly, a link back to your first page. That's homework for you. Go and see if that's true on your websites. The branding on your top left should always be a link back to your home page. That's just kind of the way the web works in best practice land. I didn't make it up, it's just true. Certain things are true. Here's the thing about branding, though. I'll talk about this when we get a little further in. Branding's important, but text, just save this for a slide coming up. Text sometimes is even more important than graphic. Hold that thought.
The font style? Is that what you're saying?
Not necessarily.
The wording?
Not necessarily. We'll get there. We'll get there, I promise. I promise. Words matter. In Abington, PA, on their homepage, they are excited to see you, even though I think there's a typo in here. Somebody pointed that out. I didn't write it, so I'm not responsible. Welcome, they're excited. Welcome, exclamation point, to St. Anne's. And they're telling you, you can't read it, but there's something about them, and there's a cool picture that's probably taken from the organ loft back there, and it's kind of fisheye, and it's neat. Words matter on your page. Words are, if not people who read them, Google's index spiders will read them. The things that crawls through the internet, finding everything so that it can be found on a search, will read it. Words matter. Typos matter. This is both good and bad. This is one church in Newtown Square. This is a graphic, and this is text. This is bad because it is a graphic that has their contact information in it. Google cannot index the contact information in a graphic. All it sees is a picture. That's all. Your contact information, if it's going to be like this, better be this way too. Text on the page can be read by a search engine. This cannot. It is important for, in the Web 101 brain, that the rest of the internet can find you. It can't find you this way, but it can find you this way. So if the only representation of your contact information, your phone number, your address, is a picture, a graphic file of some sort, please change that. Make an effort to have it in text somewhere. And I have other examples of how it works. Name names. In Wayne, PA, they have a really cool clergy page. And this page goes on a little further. I just kind of clipped the top bit of it that has their rector and associate. Has a nice bio and a link to his blog, I think, and his phone number and his email address. Some cool pictures. I like this page because I can see who it is that is serving and moving this congregation. They even look happy to be there. They're glad that they work there. Can you tell? Now on this page also, there's more to this page. The music director was there, the youth minister was there. I don't know, I think the guy who cleared the snow had his picture here. There were many other people there. There was a wedding planner here. Did you meet the wedding planner?
Mm-hmm.
If they had a wedding planner, that person's picture would be here. They also had a vestry page that had similar information. So an indication of who is there, who is lighting the lights, who is making things happen here in Wayne, PA. Might be something you want to know if you're looking for a place to join, if you want to be part of this community. They look pretty good. Maybe you want a more diverse clergy team, I don't know. But, maybe you like this guy. Looks good to you. Sometimes we shop packaging. Sometimes we shop substance. But something to indicate who's there. This is another one of these good news, bad news situations. It's important to have your calendars and times of worship on your websites, I think. When are you gathering? This is an example from the same church in Radnor, PA. Over here, they took the time to set up a Google Calendar, which is another really good idea. Let the geniuses at Google do the programming, and you just fill in, when things are happening. You can make things happen, in this case, on a reoccurring basis. But, what's missing from this calendar?
Sunday worship.
Yeah, they didn't bother to put it. It's unbelievable. Go to all the effort of setting this up and embedding it on your page, because I just made a screenshot of their page. I didn't make their calendar for them. They did that. Why don't we just, I don't know. So, consistent, please. Why not? If you're going to do a Google Calendar, put all your stuff on the Google Calendar. If you went to the trouble of making the Google Calendar and then embedding it on your page, then why not have all the stuff that's important be there? So, please do that. Oh, go. Okay. Social media. Kind of a good news, bad news reality of social media. I'm not going to talk about the trials and tribulations of who is going to coordinate social media in your parish. That's a whole nother can of worms and a whole nother, set of problems of having the right person or anybody at all, to take care of this. Who's going to monitor your Facebook page? It's not necessarily the can of worms I'm going to open up here. But if you are active at all on social media, you might want to say so and indicate it in some way on your website so that people can connect with you on a deeper level. Conversations that happen on Facebook are not going to happen on your website. Probably. They're going to happen over there on Facebook. In this particular case, in Rittenhouse Square in Philadelphia, and there's more to this picture, I just clipped it for the sake of the slide. They have a Facebook page, a Twitter account, an Instagram account, and a YouTube channel. And they kind of married it with their search, little internal site search. They've got money to spare there, so they've got a really cool website. And they've got, give. So this is their kind of little top of their website here. This is the footer from episcopalchurch.org. from the website that I have, that I built for all of you. If you haven't gone there, you should. Please go. So I'm indicating here that these are the social media channels that we have as part of the church, and I've coupled that with my contact information, not my contact information, but the church's contact information in New York, text, not graphics, on the bottom of every page. This is the footer of my website that I built. This happens to be part of the header of Rittenhouse Square's website. It came up in the earlier session that if you're going to put these icons on your page,
They better link to your.
they might, well, the right links are a good idea. Also you want to not have your Facebook page, be 6 months out of date. If it's Advent, the last thing on there was Lent. Bad, very bad, not good. That means nobody's home, honestly, or nobody cares. So if you're going to have these icons on your page, I think it behooves you to take them seriously and understand and honor the power behind the social media platforms. It is enormous. It is tremendous. It elects presidents. It starts wars. It can heal, it can help, it can do all the good and bad things that we all know. If you're going to put them on your page, I think it makes sense to make sure that there are stewards taking care of that side of the house.
Question?
Yes.
The footer there,
Yeah.
did they embed that from the denominational site?
That is.
That's the
This is the footer from episcopalchurch.org as it is today.
Right, but Holy Trinity Rittenhouse,
They're two different things.
Oh, this is a different picture.
oh, they're two different.
Yeah, this is a screenshot from,
Oh, okay.
from the website that I built and a screenshot from their site. It's two different things. There are many websites that I see every day. I look at parish websites every day because people call me to say, oh, we have a new web address, or we have our email changed, or the rector is not what we're showing. And invariably what I will do is not just take care of their request, I will go and look at all of the information that we have on our Find a Church page for that particular church, and I will go to their website, make sure the link is working, mine for them. And invariably when I get there, I don't see this. I don't see this happening. And sometimes if I'm rushed, I won't bother. A lot of times though, I will go and look on Facebook for Holy Trinity Rittenhouse Square. Obviously it's a bad example, but I will look for Christ Church in Coronado if I'm on their website and don't see their Facebook icon. And lo and behold, they have a Facebook page or group, but it isn't there. If I'm really feeling enthusiastic, I'll look on Twitter, I'll look on Instagram, and more times than not, maybe half the time, I will discover that they actually do have social media channels that they haven't yet, or felt the need to, or just haven't, I don't know, for whatever reason, they haven't put them on their page. Like, I like to know, because we have that information about them on our version of their page, on our website. We have pages for all active parishes in the Episcopal Church on the episcopalchurch.org website. So I like to know what's accurate and what's true. Oftentimes I don't see what's actually true on their sites. Go figure. Your website should talk about, this goes back to church shopping, what makes your place the place to be? Why is it great? What makes it distinct? You have a community garden? Talk about it. Are you running a feeding program? Talk about it. Are you running Friends of Bill? Talk about it. Whatever you're doing, talk about it. Put it out there. People want to know. In this particular case in Yardley, they've got a picture of, I'm sure I don't know, I'll make up a story. It's a father and a daughter, and they're loading a truck. It looks like they're loading, I don't know, clothes for donation. And there's a paragraph talking about an aid for friends. That's their ministry. Wonderful. If you read this, if you're looking, this might be appealing. Also, if it's a part of your website, it'll be part of the Google index about who you are. So if you have wonderful programs, or just a list, it's good to do that. It's important, I think, to do that as part of who you are as an organization. What makes you stand out? Mobile and responsive. This has been the most challenging and difficult part of my job over the last 2 years, is getting episcopalchurch.org to work here. This is very important. This is how most of us roll these days. Our phones are in our pockets. We're checking them constantly. They help us find the restaurant we want to eat in. They help us look at our email. They help us keep track of our children. If we get a flat on the highway, we're calling AAA. This thing is very important. For the first time recently, on the Google Analytics that I look at regularly, more than half of the visitors to episcopalchurch.org, and I'm talking about millions of page views a month, are here rather than there. So what does that tell you as smart people? If they're here, then your website better be usable here. And it can't be something that you have to, expand and move and shift. And we've all done that on our phones. Go to a website and go, ugh, I can't read it. I can't see it. I have to make it bigger. Then I have to make it smaller, move it around and shift it around. It has to work here. How do you get it to work here? Unfortunately, the only answer for that is to blow up what you have that doesn't work here and try and build it again to make it work here. You can't take your old website and make it work here. It will not. You can't. There's no way to do that. There are lots of options. There's lots of ways to do this. And it's just, you might like the old website, but unfortunately the trend that we're going in, people are using smaller screens, whether it's tablets or phones. I even consider this a mobile device because it isn't chained to my desk. I can take it, I can put it in my bag, and I can go down to the coffee shop and I can use it. It's almost like a mobile device, but it is larger than this. Screen-wise, resolution-wise, it's better. But this is important. This little thing that has more computing power than Apollo 11, right? Perspective goes right here in my pocket wherever I go. It's just, I'm sorry, that's just reality. So having a website for your organization that doesn't work and serve this user doesn't make a lot of sense. This is kind of like one of those, excuse the expression, come to Jesus moments in the web world, where we have to figure out how to do this. Because this is where people are living. They're not going back to this. They're not going back to those 16-inch monitors on the desk. This is only going to get more. This is only going to be used more, not less. More, more, more. In Bala-Cynwyd, that's how you pronounce that, by the way, they got a pretty cool site. This is how it looks on the desktop, and when you squish it down to the phone size, that's what it looks like on the phone. Pretty cool. I'll show you what episcopalchurch.org looks like on the phone after I get through all this. Not an option. Your gifted nephew or the vestry member's kid is not an option when you're looking at rebuilding or building your website. I don't care how talented they are. You're going to the doctor, you're going to go to the person who got the A, not the mail order certificate in gastroenterology. I'm serious. There are gifted DIYers out there, I'll grant you, but this is that important. Your website is your identity, your digital footprint, and it is not something that I would recommend handing over to gifted amateurs. While you may get good results, results can vary, as they say on TV. I realize and acknowledge the fact that budgets are what they are. Some have them, some don't. There are options for either reality, okay? There are, and I'm just gonna briefly talk about some. You can do a pretty darn good website with Wix, Weebly, or Squarespace. I mean, no kidding, you really can. I've seen some really good ones. They're DIY, they don't cost a darn thing. Even WordPress, you can get hundreds of templates for nothing. But it's DIY. You're doing it yourself. It's drag and drop. You still have to come up with the content. You still have to have the words. You still have to have the photography. You still have to have what to fill those pages with. It's great to have shelves, but if they're empty, you know, what's the old retail saying? You can't sell from an empty shelf. You know, who goes into a store and has a good feeling about it if there's nothing on the shelves? Go shop somewhere else. So you have to be able to fill those shelves. These DIY options on the right-hand side, they're pretty okay, I would say. I've seen some pretty okay sites with this. The thing about this and WordPress is that anything you pick in their template library works here, out of the box. Good thing. Some other options, faith-based companies that we've worked with and partnered with in the past. Ecclesia 360 being the best of the bunch. Ministry Designs does some pretty good stuff, but these are paid services. You know, you gotta have money, and not trivial money, like sometimes 5-figure money. Any decent website, if it costs 4 figures, not gonna be so good. We've all gone car shopping. You know, the cheaper it is, you know, the shorter the shelf life, I say. Unfortunately, that's reality, if you're going to start getting into the paid world. I can't tell you, I won't tell you how much money I've spent in this job, making sure that websites work. It's no trivial endeavor, let me tell you. Somebody's sending me a message. Okay. So, don't hand it to a gifted amateur. Think about this. It's really, really important. I don't know what else I could say other than these are the 10 things, plus this last thing, that are important to remember, always. If you've got a website, make sure you're doing all of these things. And I'm probably sure there's more things that I haven't said. And there are things that you're doing that I haven't talked about. And we can talk about that if there's time, which I think there might be. I think that's my last slide. So, anybody want to ask me stuff? Please, ask me stuff. I love to talk about stuff. Go.
Okay, a question. How often should things be changed out on the website? And should it be every day?
No.
Could it be, I've just heard like varying things like, okay, we need to freshen it up. I freshen it up and, oh, too much information on there. It's too much. And so I'm trying to find a happy medium.
You know, how much is too much exercise? You know, some people work out every day. Some people work out twice a week. I think it really depends on what your organization specifically needs and does. I don't think you should be a season behind on things. I think the lectionary is a guide. It changes every Sunday. So that's some indication. Weekly things, as things come up. If you are doing calendaring, let's say using like that Google Calendar example, if you're feeding it, it always will be dynamically true without a lot of effort. You know, your home page unless you are feeding blog posts, and let's say you are, every time you write a new one, it's there.
Yeah.
I mean, the picture of the church on the front, your major navigation, your mission statement, that doesn't change all that much. It doesn't change at all, unless you're changing it for some reason. I think that fresh is good. We go to the grocery store, we get new food all the time. Websites, I think, don't spoil, but they do get stale. So I think it's a balance. You know, you have to look at it on a daily basis and go, is this representing what my priorities are, my mission priorities, my ministry priorities, my community priorities on any given day, week, month, quarter? You know, it's just a matter of looking at it and going, okay, if you're having a staff meeting, talk about what the most important message of the week is, and then make sure that it says that. I don't know that there's a perfect answer for that, but I would say not never and not every day.
Okay.
I mean, that's completely an unhelpful answer, but there isn't a specific number. It all depends. Some churches have more going on than others, I think,
Yeah.
and more need to change stuff.
Okay.
More. Please, yes.
We just had an argument in our church as to whether, like how much information should be on the homepage. And somebody said, oh no, the most important thing, the minister's sermons have to be on the homepage. Our web designer said,
What did your web designer say?
he said if we put it on there, we have to shove something else off. And he's
Well, that's
trying
just
to-
him saying that, you know, he doesn't want to do any work for you.
Well, he's not,
Well, that's because it's hard to do, you know, in theory. So hopefully you have a structure that's flexible, that you can move things around, up, down, sideways. Who's to say what's the most important thing? I think the people who are in leadership are going to certainly have an opinion about what they think is the most important thing. We were having this conversation in the earlier session. I have got no less than, I don't know, 20 different missioners and officers telling me what's the most important thing all the time. And what I have to do, at the denominational level, is look at my organizing principles. And for the Episcopal.Church.org these days, it's a pyramid, Jesus movement, and then the next level is creation care, or the stewardship of the environment, the idea of evangelism, and the idea of racial reconciliation. Those are the things that are important. So how does your important thing, Mr. Officer of a program area, how does that make those things truer? That's the filter that I have to run things through at the denominational level to decide what's important enough for the homepage versus, you know, oh, your link just takes you there, or your network knows where your stuff is because you've talked to them and told them, because you're beholden to them and communicating with them. So what's the most important thing? I think the most important thing is what floats your boat wherever you are. If you're looking to grow your membership, then that's going to be the most important thing. If you want to promote the sermon from last week, because that's the only time it's going to get up there, when it's already happened. It's not going to get up there ahead of time, is it? No, because what would be the point of doing that? It hasn't probably been written yet. So the answer is, what is going to make your mission priorities and your congregational vision more true? I think is the answer. What is the most important thing? And yeah, too much on the homepage, yeah, that can be crazy. Too much, yeah. But there's a way to sections and columns and ways to make things so it isn't too crazy. You don't want it to be, you know, a stained glass full of little pieces that are a million things that you can't focus on. So yes, too much can be bad.
You might have already mentioned this, but one of the churches I was helping, they had a church member get the URL originally, way back when, and then when it became due,
Yeah.
the church member had moved on or maybe changed their email address.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't notice, and then the church lost their emails for 2 weeks. It didn't appear on the web. So if you don't know who owns your URL, the church should, and you should, that should be one of your top priorities.
Yeah, I tell you what, thank you for saying that. I hadn't thought of talking about that, and that is okay, note to self. Slide, good. So many times I'll get an email saying, you know, the link to St. Joe's in Sheboygan is now going to some website that has like Chinese writing all over it. It's selling, you know, lingerie. And I'm like, no kidding, let's see. And I'll go there and well, what do you know? When URLs, when domains expire, there are companies that make it their business to acquire them. Good idea to know who owns your domain. There are ways to figure that out if you don't know, I think. There are things called a whois, lookup. You can do a Google search for how do I figure out my domain. So knowing where your website is hosted, and it's hosted somewhere, the website lives somewhere, it isn't, you don't carry it around with you. The cloud is basically a data center in some building somewhere. So where is your website hosted, and who owns the domain? We have that same problem at the church center, honestly. Domains are bought by various staff members, and then when they come to be renewed, that person is in another, and we're scrambling to figure out whose credit card it was bought on to begin with. Yeah, it's a very real problem. Thank you for saying that. Yeah.
I have a question related to that. So our website was developed by a developer before I was there, and we're concerned that he's going to go out of business.
Yeah.
So when I'm looking at changing over to a new website, I was thinking about doing WordPress so that we would own it.
Right.
But you're saying that doing something like WordPress is a bad idea.
No, I didn't say that.
I thought that's what you said because then you're. Yeah, I mean.
Did I say that? I mean, I don't know.
Did I mishear that?
I like WordPress. In fact, the Episcopal News Service is a WordPress website. Any website, any platform can be good, bad, or ugly. It all depends on who's doing it and who's using it, who's maintaining it. WordPress is fine. It's a great option. But yeah, there's the free option and then there's the pay for option. I would, before it's too late. If you own your domain, you're okay.
We own our domain, but the website may just disappear when he goes out of business.
Right. Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess it depends on where he's hosting it. If it's with a company like GoDaddy or some other hosting service, just because he developed it might not mean the website will go away. It all depends on where it's living. What you don't want to be is held hostage by the fact. Yeah, you don't want to be held hostage by whoever this is. Right. Honestly, that's a bad situation. Yes. So I feel that pain.
And WordPress can go away as well. I mean, that's hosted.
Well, anything can go away.
Anything can go away.
Right.
I mean,
Well,
do you want?
WordPress, we could host it ourselves.
Right. Hosting yourself. I mean, define that. What do you mean?
Well, we would get our own hosting outside.
Right. You can contract out to a host.
So we would be in control
Right.
of the hosting.
Right.
That's
You would
my
install WordPress somewhere on some server and develop it there.
But the
WordPress.
host could go out of business too.
I think that the sky could fall. If my grandmother had wheels, she'd be a wagon. We could play the what if.
Yeah.
Lots of what ifs. I think being aware of your vendors and their health. I mean, I have these stories on the news about these people who have paid money to wedding photographers and then they go out of business and wedding planning nightmares. And what happened? Where is their album? Anything can happen. Your travel agent can go out of business and your vacation is blown. There's lots of things that could happen, unfortunately.
And in those cases, when you're a business like we are with a cathedral, would you recommend we go with larger companies like Google and iCloud or whatever, or Mac or whatever?
To do what?
To be our hosts in general.
Yeah, I think that they're,
Because those are so established, the chances of those ever disappearing.
and a lot of times the little guys are renting space on the big guys' platforms. So, a web host, I mean, we're getting now beyond the 101.
Yeah.
Web hosting decisions are really complicated. What you're getting for the money you're paying for. Is it secure? Have you had a history of hacks? Are you providing email addresses with your package? Are you 24/7 support? You know, there's lots of stuff involved. Us, you know, I think about this occasionally. You know, am I in the most secure place? It's kind of worrisome, but yes. I don't have an exact answer, but yes. Big companies, I don't know. They're big, but they're less personal. They might not have the service you want. Small companies are more attentive, maybe, but they could be sketchy in terms of their financial health. I don't know.
Yeah, our experience, because our whole communications ministry is volunteers, and our experience was using a more established hosting company because we got support right away. We didn't have to try to figure things out for ourselves. We call them, we get on the phone, they walk us through their portal, and the problem gets fixed almost immediately. It's just so much comforting, you know, I'm willing to pay the X amount a month just to know I can call somebody anytime. Because we had a hack a few years ago where we were down for a couple of months.
I would say peace of mind is a wonderful thing. In my particular case, in the episcopalchurch.org's particular case, I have opted for peace of mind rather than price. I have a long relationship with a vendor who does a lot of my heavy lifting in terms of web development. The Episcopal Church's website is done in an open source platform called Drupal. It is maintained by a large community. I have a great web company in Chicago that helps me do a lot of this work. We host with Drupal's hosting company called Acquia. Are they the cheapest? No. But can I get them on the phone whenever something really, really bad happens? Yes. You know, we all wonder how to get that plumber or that electrician. But when we do, and we love the guy, you're never going to use anybody else. Because peace of mind trumps, excuse the expression, price. Honestly. In my mind. I'd rather pay 5–10% more, but know that my peace of mind is going to be satisfied with my vendors. That they're going to be in business and that they're going to take care of me. So yeah.
I think one of the best things, even with the larger, I used to own a big event planning company in Chicago. One of the things I learned from my mother when I was young was, I'm going to take it back to a bank. I was part of Wachovia Bank when I was a child in North Carolina. My mother told me to go in and make a personal, professional relationship with the banker, with the personal banker, and sit and talk to them and make a friendship, a professional friendship. And even though they're a big bank, if I ever had a trouble with my bank account, and it happened to me in college, I actually called home, got this lady on the phone, and she worked everything out. And even though it was a big professional bank, I had developed that relationship with that one person. And that advice has been with me, and it has served me well when I go with those big companies he's talking about, and I too have found security with it.
Yep. I can't say it enough. We're going to wrap because we're going to move to the next thing. Thank you so much for your attention. Go to episcopalchurch.org. You can find me in the staff directory. Call me, questions, whatever. We're here to help. I hope this was helpful.
Great.
Thank you.
And everybody can stay put for Q&A with presenters and then a final closing prayer.